Good morning.
Oh wow, it's loud. It's really missed me. We're continuing the halachot of Netilat Yadayim. So we were doing until now the reason and the halachot of washing for bread. Now we're going to do the halachot for washing for anything that was dipped in a liquid. It's like this. The Gemara Pesachim Kuf Tet Vav Mud Aleph says like this: Kol shetibro b'mashke tzarich netilat yadayim. Anything that's dipped in a liquid, which we'll see it's one of these 7 liquids that he'll explain later. You need to wash your hands, just like you wash for bread, to eat this item that was dipped. Now, the reason that's given by most of the Rishonim is similar to basically why I wash your hands for bread. Your hands have a general status of a 2nd degree tumah, because our hands are what they call askanyotem. They're always busy touching things, therefore they have the status, stam status, general status of 2nd degree. If your hand, which is a 2nd degree, is going to touch a liquid, it's going to make the liquid tameh, and the liquid in turn will make the food you're eating tameh. And then you're going to be eating food which is tameh, which was the same problem by washing for bread. Why we said we wash for bread? Because the Kohanim, if their hands would be tameh, they would touch the tumah and they would make the truma tameh. Same thing here. Us touching the liquid, we need basically the assistance of the liquid, will make the food tameh. Therefore, what we do is we wash our hands so that even if I were to touch the liquid now on the food, my hands are pure. It's not going to be a problem. Mostly Shunim hold this is a regular chiyuv to wash your hands, just like you wash your bread with the bacha and everything. The reason Maran actually holds you have to wash your hands, but he says no bracha. Why? Because the opinion of the Tosfot is that the reason is not because of like with bread, the different reason that you're going to drink, you're going to touch the liquid, you're going to make the liquid tameh, you're going to be drinking a tameh liquid. But since today we don't have tumah and tara, the Tosfot says halakha doesn't apply anymore. At the end of the day, we hold like Maran, because we go like most Rishonim that you have to wash your hands when you dip a liquid, food into a wet liquid, but we don't recite a bracha because we're concerned for the opinion of the Tosfot. Now, what are the liquids? The liquids are, they give an acronym, it's called Yad Shech Adam. They say wine, bee honey, olive oil, milk, dew, blood, and water. Milk. Bee honey, not date honey, bee honey. Exactly, not date honey, and milk. So you would dip something in milk.
What do you dip in milk that you have to wash your hands?
Usually they don't ask me. Usually they ask what's blood, but you ask what's milk.
No, I said, what do you dip in milk?
Cookies. I do it every morning. So if you eat, let's give the classic example of a wet apple, and he says the apple is still wet, you didn't dry it, and it's wet enough that if you were to touch the apple, you'd be able to get something else wet upon contact. You have to wash your hands with no baracha, just like all the regular halachot for bread. Meaning with the vessel, clean water, you pouring it onto yourself, koach gavra, meaning not a faucet. All the halachot would be the same.
You could speak in between. You could speak in between, right?
Maran writes, by bread, yesh lizar shelo lafsik v'dibur. A person should be cautious. The apple and the washing is probably easier because you didn't make a bracha, but again, I don't know.
Give a case with the blood.
With the blood?
Steak?
A person that is, it only applies to chicken and meat blood. We cannot have chicken and meat blood. Chicken blood is isul, and meat blood would be karet. It's talking about a sick person. It's kededis, what they call it. Meaning Maran took it for, just to take it with the group. A person who would be sick.
3-3, right?
Yeah, just like bread. A person who would be sick and the doctors would require him to eat something in blood and he would be dipping and then he would have to wash his hands. But for us, it's not so applicable because by fish blood, which we could have with the scales, you don't have to wash your hands for that. But many acharonim go back and forth. If we follow the Tosfot, if we follow all the other opinions, at the end of the day, we conclude that we have to follow the opinion of Maran like most Rishonim, that there's no leniency regarding this. The only leniency would end up being in a case where, like we'll see later on, if you have certain conditions, if it's less than a kazait, if you're not touching the wet part, if it's a cooked liquid, or you're in a place where you can't obtain water. But in general, regularly speaking, if you were to dip something in a liquid, one of the 7, you'd have to wash your hands.
Just like you wash your bread.
Just like you wash for bread, just no bracha. It's the only difference, because we're afraid of the opinion of the Tosfot.
So if I take an apple and I wash it, I have to wash my hands also.
If you're eating it wet, you have to wash your hands beforehand, correct? Beforehand.
Like if I wash an apple and I dry it, I don't have to.
You don't have to wash your hands anymore, no.
What about cereal?
So cereal we're gonna see later on that, it's a good question, cereal, this halakha applies to how the food is eaten. If you have a food that's normally eaten like rice is normally eaten with a utensil. So even if you eat the rice now and it's wet, you don't have to wash your hands. because we go by the commonality of how it's eaten. So cereal, no one eats with their hands. Therefore, cereal, you don't have to wash your hands. And even if you don't hold of this reasoning that we go by how the food is normally eaten, cereal will have 2 of the 3 leniencies, like we're going to say. First of all, you're eating it with a spoon, meaning you're not coming into contact with the wetness. And second of all, milk is pasteurized. It's called a cooked liquid. So you're going to end up having 2 out of the 3 conditions. Like we'll see later on, in that case, you're not going to have to wash your hands. He brings the common case also by lettuce, right? Person has a piece of lettuce, and the lettuce is wet enough that if I were to touch the lettuce, I can get something else wet upon contact. Even if you're going to touch the stalk or a part that's not wet, you still have to wash your hands. Why? Because the fact that you don't touch that part doesn't help you. And this is something that, I'm sorry, like the kalpas on Pesach, but yeah, okay, fine. Same thing he says, a person were to eat fruits that were washed and you didn't wipe them and it's wet enough to touch something else, even if you eat pachot mikazayid, you still have to wash your hands. Again, it's something that's commonly eaten with hands, so even if you're going to eat it with a fork, on its own, it won't be good enough. But we'll see later on, you can combine different heterim. Okay, Baruch Adonai Le'olam, amen v'amen. Rabbi Chananya ben